Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. Hello. The Secret Service apparently is having a press conference on the Trump assassination attempt. I just found this out. This was happening a little while ago. But it's on the schedule. It's being covered. So we're going to have it for you. It's going to start in 27 minutes. Again, this wasn't, I didn't know about this in advance, but I've seen other outlets. Reuters has it scheduled. A couple other outlets, Fox News and PBS, have it scheduled. So I wasn't aware this was happening before, but I guess it's happening today. I mean, I double checked it. So unless somebody got something really wrong, it's happening today. So we're going to bring you live coverage coming up in 27 minutes. I believe this will be the first time that they have given a press conference on the assassination attempt. Jeffrey C. says they love to drop bad news on a Friday afternoon. I don't know what the bad news would be. I mean, I don't know that there's going to be any big surprise or anything. Although it is on a Friday afternoon. But again, it's... I just kind of found out about it. Feels like everybody kind of found out about it. I don't even know if they announced it on their social media. Hang on a second here. But I'm supposed to have footage of it. Let's see here. Oops, hold on a second. Hold on one. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing multiple other outlets are are reporting that as well, that they're going to have it. But again, it just kind of just came out that they were having it. Kind of weird. Feels kind of odd that like you just kind of find out about it. Jim Tarbit says standard hide it by releasing on Friday afternoon. I mean, how about like doing an announcement that you're having it like the day before or something? So, but again, I mean, Reuters has it, other outlets have it, so we're covering it for you. If I get some announcement in 15 minutes that they canceled it or something, I'll let you know. But it's not like I double checked. Sugino knew about it yesterday. I hadn't heard about it yesterday. Oh, where is this here? Yeah, so I'm definitely, NBC Montana has an article about it. So anyways, all right, so we'll see what they have to say. We'll watch it. We'll take your comments and questions, and we'll go from there. Billy Marie says, I heard about it on X this morning. Ruth says, I never heard about it. Yeah, I just happened to I just checked the Reuters schedule and they had this press conference on there. Yeah, so and CNN is reporting that they're having it too, but so it's happening. It is happening. Okay, so let me know, what do you think they're going to say in this? Are they going to give a bunch? Are they going to give a bunch new detail? So this is after they fired. The Secret Service director Kimberly Cheadle, who was the director at the time of the assassination attempt, resigned after what was widely seen as a really bad performance in her hearing in front of a House committee, which we covered, in which she really hardly answered any questions at all. It was very evasive. So the current Secret Service director, the acting director, is Ronald J. Rowe. Look, vacant director. This is the Secret Service website. Director vacant. Acting director Ronald L. Rowe Jr. Thanks, by the way, to Rob Van Roy for the gift memberships. I appreciate it, Rob. And also, hey, let me shout out our moderators who are here. We have Ruth Krafasi and One Way Street and Sarah55 are all moderating on YouTube. Thank you so much. We also have, one moment, please. One moment, please. Oh, thank you so much to Rumi. Hey, Rumi, thank you so much. That's very generous of you, Rumi. Thank you. I appreciate that. Rumi. Thanks for shouting out the mods, too. I want to thank our Twitch mods and our Facebook mods. Over there on Twitch, we have moderating right now Sarah, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev. Thank you. And thanks Amelian and Qbat for subscribing on Twitch. Thanks also to our moderators on X, Linda Belk and Larry. And thanks to our Facebook moderators, we have Margaret Riley moderating over there on Facebook, K. Lowry Body Modding. Thank you. 2 p.m., 21 minutes until this starts. I do not know what is going to be said at the briefing. I do not know how much information they're going to be giving out. I do know this is the first press conference the Secret Service has had since the assassination attempt happened. All right, hang on a moment here. Give me one moment. Let me just make sure I don't have any updates here. All right, give me a shout. Let me know what you guys think is going to be said in the press conference. What do you guys think is coming? Are we going to get big new details or not? Let me know. I'm going to read some comments from you guys. At Lookner on X. Our viewer Loretta Williams says, ready to hear what they have to say. Richard says they're just going to say they will give more information in 90 days. Cyan Doodle says, I don't think we'll ever get the whole truth as to what happened. Well, I mean, as of the last update, there was no word on the person's motive. I don't know if they'll ever figure out a motive for why the person did this. Don Lad Mulligan thinks they're going to blame local law enforcement. Oh, I want to say something about that. Hey, thanks to PZ Papa Zulu for the gift memberships. That's so nice of you. Thank you, PZ Papa Zulu. So I did see this here. So look, this is an article from 2 days ago. This is an article from 2 days ago from Reuters. U.S. Secret Service chief blames security lapse on local police. This is from 2 days ago. It's not from today. And the article says, the U.S. Secret Service's new acting director said on Tuesday he was ashamed of a security lapse that led to the July 13th attempted assassination of former President Trump, but blamed it on local law enforcement. In testimony before 2 Senate committees, the acting Secret Service director, Donald Rowe, said he visited the outdoor rally site in Butler, Pennsylvania, and climbed onto the roof of a nearby building. So he did visit there. The Secret Service director who resigned, like a week ago or something, she had told Congress she still had not visited the site. So the new acting Secret Service director did visit the site. He told the Congress that he visited the outdoor rally site in Butler, Pennsylvania, and climbed onto the roof of a nearby building from which 20-year-old Thomas Crooks fired shots that wounded Trump's right ear, killed 1 rally attendee, and wounded 2 others with an AR-15 style rifle. What I saw made me ashamed, he told Congress, As a career law enforcement officer and a 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. Reuters says that the first shooting of a U.S. president or major party candidate in more than 4 decades was a glaring security lapse that led last week to former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle's resignation under bipartisan congressional pressure. But Rowe, the acting Secret Service Director, went on to tell lawmakers this week that the Secret Service erred by assuming that that local officials would cover the building in its roof, not the Secret Service. Republican Senator John Cornyn pushed back on the notion that responsibility should have been left to others. Isn't that something Secret Service should have covered, as opposed to delegating it to local law enforcement? Senator Cornyn asked. We assumed that the state and locals had it, said Acting Director Rowe. I can assure you we're not going to make that mistake again. So I guess he's saying that their procedure is going to change. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal asked Rowe, ultimately, doesn't the buck stop with Secret Service? It stops with us, sir, Rowe said, but Rowe added, if they just held their post and looked left. Rowe's comments earlier this week to Congress came days after a local SWAT team assigned to help protect Trump, told ABC News it had no contact with the Secret Service agents in charge of security at the rally before the shooting, and that an anticipated face-to-face briefing with Secret Service officials never happened. Acting Director Rowe told Congress he has already taken steps to prevent similar lapses from occurring amid concerns among both Democrats and Republicans about further political violence as the campaign intensifies. FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate told Congress that the shooter Crooks appears to have posted violent anti-Semitic and anti-immigration content online as a teenager. He was 20 at the time of the shooting, I believe. It is some of the first evidence of Crooks' possible inclination toward extremism and political violence found by investigators who have yet to identify a motive. The deputy director of the FBI said investigators found a social media account dating to 2019-2020, when Crooks would have been 15 or 16 years old, adding that the account had posted more than 700 comments. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature, he told lawmakers. Crooks flew a drone near the rally site ahead of the shooting, a flight that Secret Service officials failed to notice because a system for detecting drones was not working properly due to problems with the local cellular network. Wow. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. I need 7 seconds. My phone alarm, I said, is going off. I forgot to shut it off. Yeah, I'm going to disappear for 7 seconds. Hang on. Oh my gosh, we're back. I hadn't heard this. Again, Reuters reports that Crooks flew a drone near the rally site. I knew that ahead of the shooting. A flight that Secret Service officials failed to notice because a system for detecting drones was not working properly due to the problems with the local cellular network. Said the deputy director. Said the acting Secret Service director. Lawmakers sought to learn why the Secret Service did not delay the rally or prevent Trump from taking the stage. Rose said Crooks was only one of a number of individuals to draw local law enforcement attention, and added the Secret Service was not informed when local police saw Crooks on the roof with a rifle just before he opened fire. Okay, so anyways, that's a little summary of some recent updates from Reuters there. So what do you guys think? In 13 minutes, there's going to be a... I got the video. I got the video. All right. Hang on, guys. We got video. Via Reuters. Live video, Washington, D.C.
Audio check. 1, 2, 3. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Check, check, check.
Audio
Sound check.
1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Sound check. Guys, we got the video. We got the video. I love when we get the video early so we can see what's going on there. I guess they're really having this briefing after all. I mean, again, I hadn't heard about it until about an hour ago. Glad to be able to bring this to you. Let me read some of the comments here. Sorry. I'm going to read some of your comments. Thanks again to all of our moderators. MG says, wow, they have a briefing room. Sharon M., our viewer on X, says the local SWAT team said they were not briefed prior to the event. Pre-event briefs are pretty standard. The lack of communication is concerning. That is the view of our viewer, Sharon H. Thank you, Sharon, for your comment. Hang on a second here. Our viewer, Nalia Ann, says there will be finger pointing back and forth. I don't know, will the Secret Service in this press conference put some blame on local law enforcement? I don't know. I have no idea how detailed they're going to get. I don't know if we're going to get new information from them. I don't know if they're going to show videos. No, there's no reporting on what they're going to say. Thanks to Robert McCandless for becoming a new member. All right, hang on a moment here. Yeah, guys, I'm keeping an eye on the Middle East. If there's some huge Middle East development, I'll certainly cover it, okay? So I am keeping an eye on it. We've been covering it. So I am aware of it. If there's some huge development, we will certainly cover it. Ferris Wheel Man, our viewer, thinks they should have a motive by now. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that the shooter didn't tell anyone why he was going to do it, and didn't really, leave any writings about it. I don't know. I mean, given that he actually did this thing, that certainly suggests he might have been in not a great mental state, in a strange mental state. So who knows what evidence that there is? Integrity Farmer Bob says, still curious about his supposed encrypted comms. Maybe they'll talk more about that, Integrity Farmer Bob. James Bareka says, Cheadle is sitting on the beach drinking a margarita. Just to be clear, I don't have any actual evidence that's happening. That is what James, our viewer, is saying. Oh, thanks so much to Deborah Balke. Hey, thanks, Deborah. I will put it towards that. Deborah, that's very kind of you. I really appreciate it. I will put it towards the content. Thank you, Deborah. That's very nice of you. About 7.5 minutes until this press conference starts. Happy to bring it to you live today. Maybe we'll get some evidence like presented like photos or audio or something or video that we haven't gotten before. Our viewer Longarmer says, in this age of instant news, it's interesting that it has taken so long to hear anything from the Secret Service, especially with so much actual footage recorded in the event. This is the first press conference by the Secret Service since the shooting. Now, there's been some testimony by Secret Service directors in Congress, but this is the first press conference they've done. Because the testimony in Congress is something they're made to do, that the Congress says, come here and testify. But this is like the first time they've actually voluntarily done a media appearance. So Baby Blue Sky, I think Baby Blue Sky meant to say, with the Secret Service director resigned, what failings will be blamed on her today? Thanks, Baby Blue Sky. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be surprised if the current director, the acting director, who was with the Secret Service before, I would be surprised if he starts blaming the former Secret Service director. You never know, though. Ronald L. Rowe is the current director. He was the deputy director before Kimberly Cheadle resigned. Thanks so much, Baby Blue Sky. Oh, and thanks to Debbie James for the gift memberships. Thanks so much, Debbie James. We are bringing you live coverage. You can see it. The press conference is right in front of you. Hopefully it starts on time. Hey, the media is there. It's not like they're not ready. We got the podium. We got the media there. We got the screen on. They already did a sound check. We already saw the sound check like 5 minutes ago. Again, this stream is not about the Middle East. If there are big developments in the Middle East, we will cover it. We might do a Middle East stream later, but we are not talking about the Middle East right now. We are talking about the Secret Service press conference. Synthwavy thinks there will be shocking news. Pajama Stocking says, blame locals, no motive, nobody fired. Debbie Montgomery Chisholm says, hopefully we have real journalists there to ask real questions. Steve Sanderosa says they will answer nothing. Somebody wanted a poll. Maybe I'll do a poll real quick. One of the viewers suggested a poll about, will we learn anything, any big new information? Right, quick poll. Quick poll. I put it up on YouTube. Hey, thanks to Kathy111, our new member. And also thanks so much to Buddy McKinley. And thanks for shouting out the mods, Buddy. I appreciate that, Buddy. Thank you. All right, I put up a poll on YouTube. I'm putting it up on Twitch. Will we learn any big new information? So the current poll on YouTube is 81% say no and 20% say yes. There's the poll. Oh, hold on. I see somebody coming in. 80% say no and 20% say yes over there on YouTube. On Twitch, on Twitch, we have a vote of 73% no, 26% yes. So most of you think we will not learn any big new information, but a few of you think we will. Our viewer pick pa ... says it may just be a nugget, but it will be new. All right, thanks for voting in our flash poll. Thanks so much to Kelly Smith. Thank you, Kelly Smith. So kind of you. Appreciate your support. And thank you also, Scratch, who says a seed of truth yields a bushel of understanding. This is the first press conference by the Secret Service since the assassination attempt. Can you believe it? The assassination attempt was on July 13th, and this was certainly not well publicized in advance. I had not heard about it until about an hour or so ago. You can't really find many news articles on it. I mean, maybe there's like a couple floating around, but to me, this was not very well publicized in advance. But they're having it, so that's good. Oh, Debbie James, so generous of you. Debbie James, thanks so much, Debbie, for all your support. Really appreciate that. Debbie James, thank you. Oh, we got a podium. Hold on. Everyone. Here we go. Here we go. It's starting. Starting early. A minute early.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump was a dark day for our country. I again extend my deepest sympathies to the family of Corey Comparator and sincere wishes for a swift recovery for Mr. Copenhaver and Mr. Dutch. The Secret Service takes full responsibility for the tragic events of July 13th. This was a mission failure. The sole responsibility of our agency is to make sure our protectees are never put in danger. We fell short of that in Butler, and I'm working to make sure that this failure does not happen again. I'm focused on ensuring that the full resources of the Secret Service are utilized to safeguard our protectees, and I've implemented and will continue to implement changes to ensure that that happens. We are and we will continue to cooperate with pending oversight investigations of the July 13th failure being done now by Congress, the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General, and the independent review directed by President Biden. Additionally, the Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is currently conducting a mission assurance review. As I stated, I am not waiting for the completion of those reports, and I've directed the Secret Service to take immediate steps to ensure our protectees are indeed safe. And I will summarize those steps in a moment. I am committed to pursuing accountability for the Secret Service's failure in Butler, Pennsylvania. But let me be clear. If policy violations by Secret Service personnel are identified by the agency's mission assurance review, those individuals will be held accountable. And they will be held accountable to our fair and thorough disciplinary process. The first part of that process is an investigation to identify whether policy violations occurred. Potential policy violations are referred to our Office of Integrity, and appropriate discipline is administered under our table of penalties. The facts will drive the outcomes of those investigations, and I promise accountability. And I will not rush to judgment nor ignore due process. Every single person within the Secret Service feels the weight of what happened. We are in an unprecedented threat environment and a high operational tempo during this presidential campaign. The men and women of the Secret Service are working incredibly hard and doing their jobs under difficult circumstances. They need to focus on their work, and they need to know that I have their backs, and that is my commitment to them. I want to thank our state and local partners. The Secret Service relies on local law enforcement for every protective event. Those valiant men and women work tirelessly protecting their communities. They know the people, places, and terrain that we operate in. We owe them our thanks, and simply put, we cannot do our jobs without them. And I know how important this relationship is. I spent 4 years in local law enforcement before joining the Secret Service. I know the long hours these men and women put in and the professionalism they bring to this partnership. And in that capacity, I was always proud to support the Secret Service's protective mission when called upon as a municipal police officer. In no way should any state or local agency supporting us in Butler on July 13th be held responsible for a Secret Service failure. Typically, the Secret Service refrains from commenting on ongoing investigations, but we know these are extraordinary circumstances. So please understand that the information provided today is based on what I know now to a degree of certainty. We will learn more as interviews are completed and further evidence is gathered and analyzed, and I will share more information as it becomes available. But I can say without a doubt that heroism was present that day. Secret Service agents rushed to the stage to shield the former president with their bodies within 3 seconds of bullets ringing out in an unflinching act of bravery. The Secret Service counter-sniper who neutralized the threat with a single shot undoubtedly saved countless lives. We're in a high operational tempo, and I need and I want our Secret Service workforce, the dedicated men and women of the Secret Service. I want to know and I want to make sure that they are uplifted so they can focus on carrying out the mission. They are worthy of trust and confidence, and they deserve your support. And let me take a moment to speak to the American people that are counting on us to do our job, to protect their ability to cast a vote for the candidate of their choice. The Secret Service's successes are largely unknown. You will only know of our failures, and those have been documented, and all of them are undeniably dark days in our nation's history. But let me tell you about the dedicated patriots of the Secret Service. These public servants are the quiet professionals working in the background, day in and day out. They are standing the watch, providing a blanket of protection to the people that work in the White House, to the thousands of people who attend political rallies and nominating conventions, to the thousands of American citizens who line Pennsylvania Avenue every 4 years on Inauguration Day to see the new president and the new vice president. And they are out there right now doing this mission. They are focused, and they live their professional lives committed to the values of this agency: justice, duty, loyalty, courage, and honesty. This is who we are, and this is what we do, and we will earn back your trust. I'll now provide a timeline of the visit to Butler, Pennsylvania. On July 8th, personnel assigned to the agency's Pittsburgh field office conducted planning meetings and a site walkthrough with law enforcement partners and campaign staff. On July 10th, Secret Service counter-sniper and technical security personnel arrived in Pittsburgh and began advanced planning for their teams. July 12th, the build-out of the campaign rally site began and continued through the early morning hours of July 13th. In the morning of July 13th, a site briefing was conducted with Secret Service personnel and law enforcement partners supporting the event. Secret Service personnel took their posts, and a technical security sweep of the protective site commenced prior to the site's opening to event staff, vendors, and to the public. At 12:30 p.m., the Secret Service opened the protective site to event staff and vendors, and then at 1 o'clock, magnetometer screening of the estimated 15,000 people attending the campaign rally event, staff, and vendors began. At 5:30 p.m., former President Trump arrived at the campaign rally via Secret Service motorcade, and at that time he met with supporters in a secure backstage area within the protective site. At 5:45 p.m., a local Butler County Emergency Services Unit counter-sniper team member texted the Secret Service counter-sniper team leader about a suspicious person and sent 2 photos of the individual later identified as the assailant. At 5:53 p.m., the Secret Service counter sniper team leader texted the Secret Service counter sniper teams that local law enforcement was looking for a suspicious individual outside of the perimeter lurking around the AGR building. At this time, Secret Service personnel were operating with the knowledge that local law enforcement was working on an issue of a suspicious individual. The concept of local law enforcement working on such issues is common at sites. And on July 13th, there were over 100 calls for support. At 6 p.m., former President Trump took the stage to begin remarks. And based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding that personnel were not aware the assailant had a firearm until they heard gunshots. At 6:11 p.m., a member of the former President Trump's protective detail contacted their Pittsburgh field office counterpart to inquire about the radio update that there was an issue local law enforcement was looking into near the perimeter. At 6:11 p.m., the assailant's first volley of 3 shots was fired, and within 3 seconds, the former president's detail rushed the stage and covered former President Trump, shielding him with their own bodies. The 4 through 8 shots took place over the next several seconds. 15.5 seconds after the assailant's first shot, a Secret Service counter sniper fired a single round that neutralized the assailant. That concludes a quick, brief summary of the timeline. And with that, I'll turn it over to our staff here to begin any questions.
Director, we're going to start with Fox News. David Spence with your question.
Hi, sir. Thank you for doing this. You said earlier this week to Congress that You said earlier this week to Congress that you don't want to tip anything on the scale as far as disciplinary action is concerned. I need to ask you, since you testified, has anyone been suspended with or without pay? Has anyone been fired? And will you tell us as people are disciplined along the way, or is this something we're going to need to just constantly be asking? Or will you update and tell us 5 people have been fired, 6 people, 7 people? What can you tell us?
Sure. Thank you for that question, David. So, as I said in my opening statement, there are going to be, there's the mission assurance review. If that mission assurance review is looking into if there were policy violations. At that point now, if in fact there were policy violations, at that point now it'll go into a parallel path of a disciplinary type of investigation. Those are internal investigations that deal with employee matters, so we're not going to be able to provide real-time updates or continuously to provide you updates on that. But what I will tell you is that these are very thorough investigations, and if in fact there were policy violations and they are substantiated, those employees will be held accountable.
I think, if I just may, sir, people want accountability. You may not be able to tell us names or positions or something, but will you be able to say that people have been disciplined? People want to hear that there's some accountability here.
I will be able to, at least at a high level, provide at least some type of statement that people are being accountable, being held accountable.
If I may, and I appreciate this, Fox Digital obtained some new video of somebody on the roof, which we believe is the assailant, that was running back and forth while President Trump was speaking. What do you make when you see of that? How does that go with this timeline here?
Yeah, so it affirms to me, and again, and you heard this from the FBI, and they're still conducting interviews and looking at this. It even just affirms to me that this was a failure. We should have had better protection for the protectee. We should have had better coverage on that roof line. We should have had at least some other set of eyes from the Secret Service point of view covering that. That building was very close to that outer perimeter, and we should have had more of a presence. And so as far as the timeline of him running back and forth, I know the FBI has provided a bit of a chronology as well, and so I'd have to go back and look at that. But the bottom line is this, David. This was a Secret Service failure. That roof line should have been covered. We should have had better eyes on that.
Thanks, Director. We're going to go to the Washington Post. Terry Stein.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this. I have just a quick follow-up. Can you describe, you said there were 100 calls for support. who those calls came from and what those looked like? And also, moving forward, do you anticipate, and if so, what any different changes in protocol between how Secret Service communicates or works with local law enforcement specifically as they work to secure events or other things?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, with regards to calls for support, it was a very hot day that day. There was a lot of not only EMS type of calls to address people, but there were people that needed some other type of law enforcement assistance. This happens a lot at outdoor rallies, where especially on hot days. So there was a lot of traffic, radio traffic on the local net about, hey, I need EMT here. So there was a lot of people that were needing assistance. With respect to the interoperability, so one of the things that I've directed is I've commissioned a task force. And that task force is going to be leveraging the resources of the Department of Homeland Security. It'll be co-chaired in all likelihood by someone from the Secret Service and someone from CISA. And I think we're also going to bring in some state and local law enforcement. The interoperability challenge, it's not an easy fix. It's not as simple as just trying to figure out the local frequency of the agency you're working with and then piping that into your radio network. It requires a substantial technical fix. In the meantime, before we can get to that, what I need to have is I need to make sure that our folks, when they're out there, we use a counterpart system. On the day in Butler, we had a Pennsylvania State Trooper in our security room. They also had a unified command post that had some of the other agencies that were on site that day. It is plainly obvious to me that we didn't have access to certain information, not by anybody's fault. It just so happened that there was a sense of urgency, that there might have been radio traffic that we missed. We have to do a better job of that. So moving forward, in addition to this task force that we'll provide more information on next week as we begin to stand that up, I've also directed all of our SACs, our special agents in charge of field offices across the country, to reevaluate where we put our security rooms. If a state or local sets up a unified command post, maybe we need to be in that room as well, as opposed to just being in another room and relying on that counterpart system. It was so apparent to me that in this incident, in the final 30 seconds, which has been the focus of what happened before the assailant opened fire, there was clearly radio transmissions that may have happened on that local radio net that we did not have. And so we have to do a better job of co-locating, leveraging that counterpart system, and this is going to drive our operations going forward. We did not. It did not make it over to us. Or whether we did not hear it, it just did not make it over to us. It did not make it to us. And I go back to my opening statement where the members of the detail, they did not. All they knew that the issue that the locals were working an issue at the president's 3 o'clock, which would have been off to his right, which is where the shot came from.
We're going to go to Rebecca Santana with the Associated Press.
Just to follow quickly on that question of the 100. Sorry, to clarify on the 100 calls that you got roughly that day. I understand a lot of them were heat related. How many specifically were suspicious people? Was this the only call, the eventual shooter that was a suspicious character? And then also can you clarify, did you guys have a drone on site? Did you try to use it? And if not, why did you not use the locals' offer of a drone?
Sure. So as I understand it now, based on the information I have, there were other calls of suspicious individuals. And your other question was about drones?
About the
drones.
You had
Yeah.
a drone on site, there was a Secret Service drone, and what was the reason you couldn't
Sure.
use it? And then also there was this offer from the locals of somebody had a drone.
Right.
Why was that?
So we did not have a drone on site. We did not put a drone up. Based on the information I have right now, I am aware that there was a request from a local agency to offer to fly a drone on that day, and that is also part of the mission assurance review that I've asked to get some better insight in. One of the other changes that I implemented when I became the acting director is we are now going to leverage the use of unmanned aerial systems at sites now. So we are putting those assets out, and we should have had better line of sight on some of those high ground concerns. We thought we might have had it covered with the human eye, but clearly we are going to change our approach now, and we are going to leverage technology and put those unmanned aerial systems up.
We're going to go to Nicole Skanda with CBS News.
Thank you so much for doing this. You mentioned that there were text messages from Butler ESU to U.S. Secret Service counter snipers. I'm curious if that is routine. There were 2 communication channels at the Butler rally, and you referenced earlier this week it appears that information was stuck or siloed at the state and local channel. What was the plan to relay information from locals to the Secret Service initially? What is the protocol? And I just have one follow-up.
Sure. So, Nicole, we use that counterpart system, right? And so the teams, especially on the tactical side, when it comes to the tactical, our counter-assault team, they actually had an embed with them from the local TAC team. And they had that radio net as well with Pennsylvania State Police. With respect to the counter snipers, they were using cellular or telephone text communications. At this point, moving forward, what I have directed now is that everybody should be using the radio net. And if we don't have the ability to pipe in or leverage that counterpart system, that's one of the things that we're looking at now. We should be able to have direct comms with the people that are supporting us, and that's moving forward. That's what I have directed.
So just to clarify, U.S. Secret Service counter snipers did not have radio communications.
Not with the local CS folks that were providing a support. They were basically had an area of responsibility independent from where our counter snipers were securing.
And just a last thing, did the U.S. Secret Service counter sniper teams that arrived on site on July 10th ever relay line of sight concerns? What came of that? And can you confirm that this was the first 2024 campaign event that counter sniper teams were assigned to the former president?
Sure. As part of their advance, they identified those line of sight, those high ground concerns, and there's a division of labor. With respect to the whether or not this was the first time, it was. It was the first time Secret Service counter snipers were deployed to support the former president's detail.
Go to Eileen Sullivan with the New York Times.
Hi, thanks so much for doing this. I have a question about the review that you did, the picture that you showed in the Senate the other day of the vantage point that the local snipers had. How do you know that that's the window that they were actually posted at? Because they're saying that they're on a completely other side of the building. And related to that, has the Secret Service actually interviewed the snipers that were in the AGR building?
So thank you for that. So once the FBI had released the Butler Farm Show site, we were able to take custody of it, and we sent the full resources of our Office of Investigations, which included the Forensic Services Division. We did a full site reconstruction, and this is part of our ongoing mission assurance review. And as part of that, that also included the plotting and also trying to identify where not only our personnel were, but also where state and local law enforcement were. And then the second part of your question was?
Well, so, I mean, how did you identify where they were? And have you interviewed the local snipers?
So the mission assurance, we're starting with our federal personnel and working out. We will get, if they're willing to be interviewed, we will ask for the local law enforcement on site to be interviewed that day. How we went back and reconstructed that was based on what we had based on the ops plan, and then also based on what our own folks, as they understood it on the day of.
Well, but I mean, you've talked a lot about how you may not have been as specific as you need to be. So how do you know that they were in that window, that if they looked left, they could have seen something? Because they're saying there's no way they couldn't see any of the routes from where they were posted at the other side.
So I think what we'll do is we'll let the mission assurance play that out, and we'll look forward to interviewing them and definitely getting their side of the story. But what I also want to reiterate is this was a Secret Service failure, and so they should not be blamed. We're not trying to shift blame to anybody, and that's the important takeaway, that we need our state and local partners out there doing this with us every day.
Thanks, Director. We're going to go to Peter Thomas with ABC News.
Director, thank you for taking the time.
Just a couple questions, if you could walk us through some things to help us better understand. Have you gotten to the bottom of why there was no one stationed on the roof from a law enforcement perspective, and why there was no one there to secure the building to make sure no one could get up there? Have you gotten any clarity on why those two lapses in security were in place? And I have a couple quick follow-ups.
Sure. It's something that, again, having been there the day after I was named the acting director, I wanted to put eyes on and go up there and see it.
Yes, sir.
And looking at that site, it really seeing how close that site was to the stage, seeing where it was. It definitely raised a lot of questions in my mind that there should have been physical presence, if not on the roof, that there should have been better security to prevent anyone from getting up on that roof. So moving forward, I've directed our Office of Protective Operations and our Special Operations Division now that when we are up operational and we have counter snipers out there, that we're working with locals, and that they in fact will also be out present. At the very least, the presence of a law enforcement officer can deter a lot of bad activity. Having been a local police officer, I will never know how many crimes I prevented just by being there, just by walking the street and being out there. And so moving forward, one of the things that we want to do is we want to deter people from even thinking about trying to do something like this again. And the only way we can do that is leveraging not only the resources that we have, but the resources of our state and locals, and putting them out there in an overt presence.
Two very quick follow-ups. You talked at length at the hearing the other day about the system that did not operate that could detect drones. Mm-hmm. Can you describe a little bit of how that works? Does that go in the sky itself to detect the drones? And then finally, the interoperability issue. I'm clear in terms of that Secret Service radios were not communicating with the locals. Mm-hmm. But you had people in the command post, right, who in theory could hear and know some basics of what was going on. Is that am I understanding that correctly?
So with respect to the counter UAS, Pierre, I don't want to get into too much sensitive information, but what I can tell you is it allows that asset allows the geolocation to be able to plot where a drone is within a certain distance of how we set up. So think of it as like geofencing, and then being able to pinpoint and detect where that is. And with respect to the agency that was, we had Pennsylvania State Police, but it appears that there was really a big sense of urgency going on, and the state and locals were doing everything they possibly could to try to find the assailant. He had already come to their attention. They were actively trying to find him, and I believe everyone was doing their level best to try to locate him. But there could have been other agencies that were putting out radio transmissions, and this is something that we'll work with the FBI to get further on. But those radio transmissions might have just been back to the unified command post and maybe not have made it over the Pennsylvania State Police here. But that's something that we're going to look into, and definitely something that we are moving forward. We definitely want to remedy this going forward.
But your Secret Service personnel in the command post had some sense that something was going on based on what they were being told about the radio set.
Yes, that they were working an issue at the 3 o'clock of the stage.
We'll go to Andrew Goodsworth with Group Reuters.
Thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask you about changes moving forward. Former President Trump has said he wants to continue having outdoor rallies. What specifically will be different at the next rally that wasn't the case in Butler? And if I could ask a follow-up to, do you have information in the 30 seconds after the gunman was confronted on the roof by a local law enforcement officer that there were local law enforcement trying to communicate with the Secret Service that there was someone on the roof with a gun, and that transmission was the one that was missed?
Okay. So with respect to the former president wanting to get back out there, listen, it's a campaign season, right? Candidates want to be out there. They want to be, whether it's an indoor site or an outdoor site, it's on the Secret Service to make sure that we create a secure environment. Listen, we identify challenges, we identify concerns, and then it's on us to figure out what we need to do to mitigate that. So if there are going to be future campaign rallies outside, it's going to be on us to make sure that we are providing all of the assets and resources to make sure that those sites are indeed secure. With respect to the radio transmissions, based on what the FBI, my colleague from the FBI testified the other day, and they are working on isolating some of those radio frequencies from the state and locals, that there was somebody who did in fact radio out that they had seen the individual with a weapon. What I can tell you is that piece of information, that vital piece of information, and by no fault of anyone, it was a very stressful situation, it did not make it over. Our detail, our counter snipers, everyone that was there that day, were operating under the assumption and under the last bit of information they had received that there was an issue that the locals were working at the 3 o'clock. That's the bit of information that we had, not anything about a weapon.
I wanted you to address, or if you can, describe the Pittsburgh field office and their level of experience, especially in preparing for events like this, and also have they explained their thinking and how they defined the perimeter that day?
Sure. Thanks, Holmes. Our Pittsburgh field office, I don't think there's anybody in the Secret Service who is feeling this more than the men and women of our Pittsburgh field office. And I've met with them. And they are down right now. And so when I've met with them the other day, it was very difficult. It's difficult for them. They feel like they let their colleagues down. They feel like they let the country down. And they are wearing this, and it's open. You can see it. It's an open wound that they are carrying. They are a very experienced office, and what I will say is they are cooperating with the mission assurance. They understand the gravity of this situation, and they are definitely down right now.
If I can, one follow-up. You testified about one of the Secret Service failures was an assumption that day. I'm curious how the Secret Service can even make assumptions regarding protection, because it seems antithetical to the entire protection mission.
Yeah. So when I said it's a failure to challenge our assumptions, meaning the assumption that, hey, that's going to be addressed or that's going to be covered by state and local. So earlier this week, I convened a call with all of our special agents in charge of all of our field offices, and I expressed to them, listen, we need our state and local counterparts, but we also have to be very direct, very clear about what our expectations are about what we need from them, whether it's a particular asset, whether it's particular numbers of personnel. We need to be very clear so that they have an understanding of exactly what we need from them. That's on us. We need to be better communicators and articulate exactly what we need to mitigate any challenges, concerns, or anything that we identify during that advanced process. And so I have full confidence in our SACs in the field. I have full confidence in our state and local counterparts that moving forward now, we're not going to have this assumption that, oh, we think that they have it. No, we're going to work together. We're going to have good, hard, fierce conversations about what we're going to do, and then we're going to go out there and we're going to make all of these venues secure moving forward.
Thank you, Acting Director. One thing, for starters, I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on a portion of the timeline in which you address a communication between the Secret Service detail and personnel at the Pittsburgh field office. It just struck me as a little vague, and I was curious if you could elaborate on what that communication was.
So the former president's details, they had an advanced person on the ground who was responsible for the site. The radio transmission goes out about locals working an issue at the 3 o'clock. The member of that detail called their Pittsburgh field office counterpart. Hey, what do you know about this? Right in the middle of that phone conversation, the shots begin firing. So that's the context of it.
And sorry if I missed. Could you say how they became aware of the locals working an issue in the first place to even have that conversation with?
That was the radio transmission that was put out by our security room.
I got it. Okay. Just to follow up, I'm curious about you mentioned that this was the first event where Secret Service counter snipers had been assigned as part of the security for former President Trump. To what extent do you think that factored into what were ultimately shown to be the failures? Just that this was a first time, at least in a while, in his capacity as a former president, that they were there on the site.
So
the novelty of it. Sorry.
Sure. So let me just clarify one thing. This was the first time that Secret Service counter snipers, but the former president at campaign rallies has actually been getting state and local resources. So tactical assets, counter snipers from state and locals. So with respect to why they were there in Butler, listen, we evaluate our threat landscape every day. We calibrate based on that threat. We evaluated a threat stream that we have, and we put our Secret Service counter sniper personnel out there. And looking back, it was very fortunate that we did. But the former president will have counter sniper coverage moving forward, as will the president, the vice president, Senator Vance, and then we'll await the eventual Democratic vice presidential nominee. We are going to put full resources out there to make sure that our campaign cadence now is obviously picked up, and we're going to make sure that we have all the resources out there to address any challenges that we have.
Thank you. As you're doing this review, are you looking at the days leading up to this event and the instructions that you gave to state and local and federal partners? I know in the past there used to be a PowerPoint presentation that was given before events like this, where people who were part of each unit in the Secret Service would stand up, go through the mission, who was assigned to them, what they'd be doing. I understand that did not happen in this case and hasn't been happening for some time prior. Is that something you think was missing here? Is that something you might review and bring back? And do you also think the Secret Service is too reliant on state, local, and federal partners? I mean, you have almost 2,000 HSI agents helping in events coming this fall. That's a third of their workforce, and it takes a lot from state and locals as well. So first, would you bring back the PowerPoint? Do you think there should have been more planning? And are you too reliant on state and local and other partners?
Thanks, Julia. So that will be part of the mission assurance, the communications and what was communicated leading up to it. What I can tell you now, based on information I have, is there was, and what you're referring to is what we call a police meeting, where we bring all the agencies together that will be directly supporting a particular visit. We know that there was a police meeting. We know that there were agencies from the various jurisdictions were present. The ones, and when I say that, the ones that were the primary ones identified with providing support and were going to be involved in the advanced planning process, meaning they were going to provide a counterpart, kind of like what you said, the PowerPoint. If you're going to be conducting the site, this is Special Agent so-and-so, and here's their contact info. And then usually at the end of that meeting, everyone kind of goes off and they form up and they go over, how they're going to go out and do the walkthroughs and identify some of the things. Based on the information, I don't know about the PowerPoint. I can tell you that there was a police meeting. With respect to the PowerPoint, I certainly think that visuals are always good. I think that if we're not using it, we certainly will. But that goes back to my direction that we have to be very specific about what we're communicating and what our expectations are moving forward. With respect to the reliance on state and local law enforcement, listen, there are 700,000 full-time law enforcement officers, over 700,000 full-time law enforcement officers in the United States. The majority of prosecutions in the criminal justice system in the United States are done by state and locals. That's a result of criminal investigations that they do every day in their communities to keep them safe. Over 135 officers died last year serving their communities, federal, state, and local. 47 of them died by violent means, gunfire. there's not an over-reliance on them. They're out there every day securing their communities. They know the terrain. They know the people. More importantly, they know the local laws. If you're in a state where it's open carry, we're going to rely on them to enforce local laws. I, as a federal agent, cannot go out there and enforce the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I need those state and local law enforcement officers. So I would push back on that. With respect to leveraging other federal partners, when we were in the Department of Treasury, and I was a brand new agent, I would stand post during a campaign year with agents from ATF, IRS criminal investigations. We were all one big happy family. Customs. Customs moved over to DHS just like we did. So we do this every 4 years. We rely on those partners. We use them during national special security events like the Democratic National Convention, the United Nations General Assembly, the presidential inauguration. Those are whole of government security operations, which the Secret Service is the lead planning for, and we're going to bring in partners from across the government. I don't feel that it's an over-reliance. It's something that we have done going back to our days at Treasury, and we're going to continue to do that. We need those partners, and we need those state and local officers.
Can I follow up here?
Sure.
There's just something I didn't understand. When you're talking about that time period where locals understand that this person is a threat, but it's before Secret Service finds out, understand communication issues, were they not standing right next to them, or were they in two separate command centers?
So we had our security room, and then they had a unified command post, and we had Pennsylvania State Police officer representative in our security room.
There was no Secret Service agent in the unified?
No, there was not.
Are there typically two separate command centers?
That was unique. As I understand it, that's an emergency management model that they use. As I mentioned in that conversation with our special agents in charge in the field, I've directed them, hey, we need to rethink where we put our security room. If the large majority of our partners are in a unified command post or in a different location, we need to probably be there too. And so we have to rethink how we, where we put our security rooms, and we are in fact doing that now moving forward.
So let's go to Alan Gilmer with Bloomberg. We'll do the pool. If there's time for follow-up, we can take it.
Thanks so much. Appropriators in Congress this week delayed consideration of DHS's budget for fiscal 25. They want to know more about what Secret Service needs. I know you said Tuesday, obviously every agency head is always going to say they need more resources, but can you be kind of specific about what resource needs there may be, particularly when we're looking at the technology issues, radio transmissions,
Sure.
the CUAS system?
So following this, we have had tremendous support from the Department of Homeland Security and from the Secretary. And we have, in fact, looked at all of these needs. Given this dynamic, high-threat environment that we're operating in order to meet this, we can meet this now. But it is going to require additional investments and resources, and we are having those conversations. We certainly we've had great support not only from the department, but also our appropriations committees, and we are working through kind of what our needs are right now. We will have future conversations about this, and we are appreciative that everyone is really coming together to make sure that we have what we need to meet this high threat.
And some senators have started to bring up that whole chestnut of should Secret Service be in DHS. Is that a conversation that you think is productive at this time?
Listen, that's not for me to weigh in on, but what I will tell you is, there's also a lot of discussion about why should the Secret Service do criminal investigations. And what I would say is this. We were founded in 1865 as an investigative entity. It's in our DNA. I firmly believe that the best protection agents learn those skills being criminal investigators. You learn how to interact with people. You learn organizational skills. You learn to be analytical. Those are all traits that you need to have when you're on a detail. Moreover, if you look at where we are today, buildings, communities, everything is interconnected. And so we have a particular expertise in cyber and in cybercrime and critical systems protection. And so when you overlay that investigative skill set that we have, it's more than just securing the president or our protectees in a brick and mortar setting. It's also protecting them from things that make them vulnerable due to cyber. And so the only way to learn those skills, to be able to detect, to be able to analyze, to be able to make sure that we are hardening not only cyber systems, but hardening a building that is fed by cyber systems. The only way to gain that experience, that knowledge, is to be able to do criminal investigations. Additionally, it is within our investigative authority to follow up on threats. People make threats to the president and the people we protect every day. We need to have that domestic and international network of field offices to be able to track down those threats. And if necessary, bring those people to justice and present them to a U.S. Attorney's office. So I know there's been a lot of talk. Should we or shouldn't we? Should we do this? Should we be in DHS? The bottom line is this. If you want the Secret Service to continue to be the Secret Service and be effective at what it does, it needs to be doing investigations, and it probably needs to be in the Department of Homeland Security until Congress or others have an opportunity to weigh in.
Last questions. We're going to go to the pool for those that couldn't be here today. Jake is.
Just a quick question. There's a report that a whistleblower has alleged that you personally directed cuts to the counter-surveillance division, which led to the threat assessments team failing to perform its duties that it typically would before the Butler rally. Is that accurate? Is that allegation accurate?
So I've become aware of this. We got a congressional letter on it. What I can tell you is that the counter-surveillance division, they do a fantastic job. They have a very specific mission set. A lot of that mission set is here in the National Capital Region, focused on permanent protective sites. But they do go out and they support, when requested, they go out and support former details. I know that there's been allegations that that I personally cut or that I denied requests. The counter-surveillance division has been out there supporting the former president's detail at some very high-profile events. They continue to provide that support, and they're out there providing support right now. So we're going to respond to the letter that we received, and we'll be sure to make that. I'm sure they will be able to share that response when the committee says it's okay to respond.
Is that a no, though? Did you cut funding personally?
I did not. No.
Did you finally figure out how he got that gun on the roof? Did it fit in the backpack?
We're working to determine that. That's something that the FBI is working on. There's a couple of, I don't want to speculate as to exactly how he would have gotten it up there.
Director Rowe, the 2024 campaign is heating up. Y'all are adding more and more candidates to your protected list. Can you ensure the protection of those candidates?
So we have already trained numerous details to be able to mobilize, to pick up multiple candidates. Most of the presidential campaign activity usually picks up coming out of the conventions. So we are prepared for this. It's just that now we are in such a heightened dynamic environment. We're actually making sure that we are probably putting everything we can to make sure that we don't have a mission failure. It is incumbent upon everyone in the Secret Service. We all understand the gravity of this situation, and we are rising to meet this moment. And we are certainly, as we go into the Democratic National Convention, as we await picking up another candidate with the eventual naming of a vice presidential nominee from the Democratic side, we are going to staff that, and we're going to make sure that we have all the resources and assets necessary to provide that level of protection. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so that was the first Secret Service press conference on the Trump assassination attempt since the Trump assassination attempt. I want to hear what you guys thought of it. I don't think we really learned much new. Let me just see what's going on in the room. I don't think we really learned much new. He did say, the acting director did say that it was a Secret Service. Oops. Hey, let me just replace the headline here. Let me replace our headline here. Got to fix that. Hold on. We'll get this. We'll remove this. There. He did say it was a Secret Service failure. He did say they should have had better visual coverage of the rooftop where the shooter was. He did say, what else? here. They're going to use drones more in the future at these rallies. He said that the counter sniper team, the Secret Service, and Trump's personal protective detail, they had not heard at the time of the shooting that the shooter had a gun. And I guess around 30 seconds before the shooting, local law enforcement had sent out a message that the shooter had a gun, but that never got to the Secret Service, and they're looking into that communications issue. He did say that local law enforcement should not be blamed, and he said it's the Secret Service's fault. It was a Secret Service failure, and they are conducting a review into the facts, and their FBI is doing an investigation like how he got the gun on the roof. So we didn't really hear much more about like the shooter, and they haven't figured out a motive yet as far as we're aware and all that stuff. But he did take responsibility for it. He said it was a failure by the Secret Service. He said they very well might discipline people, and he will keep people posted on that. They have a process they need to go through to discipline people if it's warranted, he said. So what did you guys think about the press conference? One thing that was interesting is he did say that was the first time that in one of Trump's rallies, I believe this year he was speaking about, that they had a counter sniper team. I think he said that was based on their kind of assessment of the area beforehand and what it needed. I'm just trying to think of anything else. But he did say local law enforcement should not be blamed. It was interesting. I think he said that they had not yet interviewed the local law enforcement agents who were in like the adjacent building to the roof, but he said they wanted to. I think he said that. Anyways, he did say this was a failure. Clearly there was, he did say that, they want to have better communication between local law enforcement and the Secret Service, because local law enforcement did send out a message shortly before the shooting, I think around 30 seconds, that this suspicious person had a rifle or had a gun. There was a person with a weapon, but they did not get that information. And the Secret Service didn't, even though it was sent out by local law enforcement. So they obviously want to fix that issue. And they did say that the first time the Secret Service was aware that the person had a gun was when the gunshots were fired. Okay, so I want to take some comments from you guys. Give me a shout here. At Lookner on X. Let me know your thoughts. What did you guys think of the press conference? Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to read some comments from you. And a quick thank you here to Sixes, Janet Burnett, and Lucky Splinters, and Vanessa, and Princess Teapot, and Kitty Cat, and Lauren Crow. Oh, I forgot to thank Lauren Crow and Jack. Thanks for your support of the channel, and also to the Sugaro and Cal 01515 and Durflenst over there on Twitch, and Amelian and Cubat. And thanks for your support on Twitch. Barb Filer thought it was a nothing burger. $500 fine thought it was a waste of time. Our viewer Rox QI3X said all in all he did a good job. Details are still lacking for us nerds though. Northern Grace says just excuses. Pajama Stacking thinks it was a apology to locals basically from his previous hearing. So what our viewer is talking about is a few days ago, oops, let me show you this. Here's a Reuters story from a few days ago. Get rid of that. You can see it says U.S. Secret Service chief blames Trump security lapse on local police. So this is a Reuters article from 3 days ago. What the article says is on Tuesday, the acting director who was speaking at the press conference said blamed the shortfall on local law enforcement. And he said, let me get the specifics here. He said to Congress, we assumed that the state and locals had it when talking about the roof. I can assure you that we're not going to make that mistake again. And then he was asked, ultimately, doesn't the buck stop with Secret Service? And he said, it stops with us, sir. if they just held that post and looked left. So I didn't watch that whole hearing, but it sounds like he said comments that could definitely be interpreted as blaming local law enforcement. I mean, that was the headline that Reuters posted based on that appearance. But today, he did say that local law enforcement should not be blamed and that it was a Secret Service failure. That is what he said. So maybe, as our viewer suggests, him saying that was a response to what he said earlier in the week. It's an interesting point by our viewer. Hey, thanks to Robin, her husband, and their dogs. Thanks for your support of the channel. Let me read some more comments by you guys. What did you think about it? Susan D. thinks the only reason they did the press conference is because they were called out by the Oversight Committee for not having one immediately. I mean, at least, let me say this, at least they've had one now. This is the first time they have taken questions from media, or even did a public media appearance, a public appearance where they speak to the public since the incident happened on July 13th. Let's see. Kimberly Ann says, whether they knew if he had a gun or not, he should have been approached and removed from the roof regardless. One thing he said is he did say that there should have been better coverage on that building. He said it should have been better secured and there should have been a better police presence to make sure, or security presence to make sure nobody got up on that building. He did say they're going to start using drones more at rallies. That he said. Let's see here. Kookaburra thinks the building should have been in perimeter. Liquid Electrum says they don't have walkie-talkies, no phones, no radio. Well, for whatever reason, and they're looking into this, when the people who the Secret Service did not immediately hear when local law enforcement put out word 30 seconds before the shooting that the person had a gun. So I don't remember the details, but the acting director got into how there's like different groups of communication groups, and they weren't, it's not like there's like one radio for every single person, local or Secret Service, who's working the rally. That's not how they do it. So because they have these separate communication groups, one group of people can hear somebody and the other can't. Now, obviously, that's a big issue, and that's something they said they're looking into, that this information that needs to get to the Secret Service was not getting to them right away. Duck says the locals were also using text messages and not using the radio. I think he said the counter snipers were using text messages soon. So again, I don't remember all the specifics he said about the methods of communication and the different communications groups, but clearly there's an issue if a message of that importance goes out and the Secret Service is not immediately hearing it. And that is something they are looking into. AB said, did that just happen in this instance, or did the Secret Service operate that way all the time? I'm not sure, but I don't recall him saying like, oh, this communications issue was a specific issue for this rally. I don't recall him saying anything like that. $500 fine thinks they need more money. Liquid Electrum says communication is one of the top 3 things to have having counter security. Hang on a moment here. Chris Eppolito says still no accountability, heads must roll now. So we'll see if anyone gets fired or disciplined there. It hasn't happened yet, but they say that's because they have to figure out exactly what happened, and then they have this whole, investigation they do to determine if anybody didn't do their jobs properly. I have no idea what will happen with that, so don't know. Oh, he was asked about this video that I can't show the video. I don't have the rights to it. But this video that came out, I saw the video that supposedly shows like the shooter running on the running on the roof, right? Some of you guys have seen that, I know. And I want to say he basically said when he was asked about that like failures were made, that there were failures, but they didn't really get into that much. Where is? Yeah, I don't. Again, I don't have the rights to that video, so but I think a bunch of you have probably seen it. I wonder if I have an article about that video anywhere that I can. Video. Yeah, so for example, like the New York Post had an article. I'll post a link to it that says chilling new video shows Thomas Crooks moving across roof. So I'll post a link to the article right now in the chat, and you can read it and you can watch the video if you want. It's a New York Post article. I just posted the link in the chat for you. And it says that the footage captured what appeared to be the gunman running along the rooftop in clear view of former President Trump on stage. That video was obtained by Fox News. After running across the rooftop, the figure appears to crouch down and begin taking a position over the rally. Yeah, one of our, Rocco says Copenhagen video. The video was taken by James Copenhagen at 6:08 p.m. So again, I posted the link in the chat. And hang on a second here. I'm just re-watching this. Hang on a moment. And it just, so it just points out it's just like he was up there for a while. I'll post that link again if you haven't seen it. They have a link to the Fox News clip. So again, I just posted the link in the chat to the New York Post article about that video. And in the article, they have a link to the Fox News story where they show the clip. Buck Tasty says, wow, he was so close, didn't realize he was right there in plain sight. Ponyboy says, why are we learning so little about the shooter? Well, there's been, first of all, there has been like some stories about the shooter. There's not been much about the shooter from like FBI and Secret Service, but they haven't officially released a report or anything like that. So I've seen some media reports about the shooter talking about different things about him. I don't know if I have any of them handy right now. Hang on. Let me take a peek here. I mean, now that we did learn like stuff like this. This is an AP article, Associated Press. Trump rally gunman looked online for information about Kennedy assassination. I mean, this was something that came out like over a week ago. But I'm not going to get into all now like the different articles that have come out where people talk about what he was like and that kind of thing. But there has not been, as far as I'm aware, that kind of information is like from news outlets doing interviews and stuff like that. That kind of information is not like, because there has not been any kind of detailed law enforcement report that has come out, which I'm guessing will come out at some point. Maybe we'll do a live stream when that comes out. Let's see. Yeah, Pajama Stacking says now it's FBI's turn. The FBI is conducting a criminal investigation into this. GH says it's pretty easy to take responsibility when you know there are no repercussions. Oh, you know what? That's interesting. I'd forgotten about this. Yes. So, as 3 Kanos points out, the video of that recently came out of that appears to show the shooter running on the roof, or running or walking on the roof, was shot by James Copenhaver, who was one of the victims, who was hospitalized with wounds on his arm and abdomen. So that video was shot by him. Because taken by James Copenhaver. Unless there were 2 James Copenhavers, I assume it's the same person. Yes, yes, because Fox News says the video was shot by one of the victims. I'll post another link to the video that's posted on the Fox News website. I'm going to post a link to it right now. It does appear to be running. It's so crazy. I'm posting a link to that video right now. I just posted it. I just posted the link to it. Posted by Fox News. Susan Stater thinks no one could pull this off without help. To be clear, law enforcement has said there is no evidence of any person helping this shooter at this point. Marissa Pugliese says the video was right before he got shot. Crazy. Andy Williams says he told Congress he is the one that denied the drone. I didn't see that, but I mean, it was said in the press conference today that there had been reports about this earlier, that a local law enforcement did request a drone. And they are investigating that request of local law enforcement and the fact that it was not taken up on. But he did also say, the acting director, that in the future they're going to be making use of drones at the rallies and at events. Hey, thanks, Carrie Poteet, for your support. I really appreciate it, Carrie Poteet. Also, Boomer Wow. Boomer Wow thinks this could get brushed aside. Well, one thing we will be, thank you, Boomer Wow. One thing that we will be getting is from what the previous Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheadle, who resigned last week, I believe it was, she had told Congress that within 60 days, the final FBI report is going to come out about this. So hopefully the FBI makes that report public and we get like a big report with lots of detail. That's what I'm expecting, is eventually there'll be some big report with lots of detail. I hope, and maybe that'll answer more questions. Did the Secret Service say where the ladder disappeared? I don't think they talked about the ladder today. I will say this. If you have, like, what you might want to do is the acting director he appeared at least one hearing earlier this week, and maybe two of them. So if you want to, you can go back. I'm sure you can find those like on YouTube, and you can watch the whole thing and watch all the questions he's asked. Thank you, Buddy Jacob, for your support. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I'm not up to date on all of the details of what was said at all the different hearings. There were several hearings. And I know he was at least one earlier this week. Cherry Cola has an interesting question. Cherry Cola says, have local law enforcement been doing any press conferences? My answer to you is I don't know. I certainly am not aware of any kind of press conference recently by local law enforcement where big news came out. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, but I'm not aware of it. There was a local law enforcement officer who spoke at one of the congressional hearings. That's a good question, though. But again, I'm not aware of it. Paula Thompson says, I don't think we will be allowed to know some things as expected, but they seem now to be willing to tell us what they can. I certainly agree that the approach of this acting director seems much more open than the approach of the Secret Service director who resigned, who basically would not answer questions to Congress. Vlad says local law has done interviews. John says ABC interviewed the local snipers. Let's see here. By the way, this is an article that's about one of these hearings. This is from a couple days ago. Acting Secret Service director says he's ashamed after the Trump assassination attempt. He said it was indefensible he told Congress that it was indefensible that the roof was unsecured, and said it was regrettable that local law enforcement had not alerted his agency before the shooting. But he did say today specifically that local law enforcement should not be blamed, and it was a Secret Service failure. He had also told, according to Associated Press, he told Congress this week that they had implemented multiple reforms since taking over as he took over as acting director, including mandating that every event security plan is vetted by multiple experienced supervisors before being implemented, expanding the use of aerial drones to improve visibility of roofs, dedicating more resources to improve communications at events where the Secret Service is operating. He said he's also directed that federal and local counter-snipers work together on roofs. Yeah, and this is something he said earlier this week, but he said something similar today. Even though text messages among local snipers revealed anxiety about the man, Rowe said the only thing the Secret Service knew at the time of the shooting was that law enforcement was contending with a suspicious-looking man. No information regarding a weapon on a roof was ever passed to our personnel, he said. At another point, he noted, it is troubling to me that we did not get that information as quickly as we should have. We didn't know there was this incident going on. But he did say today that local law enforcement should not be blamed for this. Any information about the encrypted phones he had. I don't have any. He didn't say anything more about that today. I can tell you that. Well, that I heard. So he did use those. One thing he used the encrypted apps for is to make purchases. So if you look at this right here, this is a Reuters article from a few days ago. Trump agrees to sit for interview with FBI as it investigates shooting. So if you go down to the bottom here, it says, and this Reuters article, I got to make this a little smaller so you can actually see it. FBI officials have described Crooks as a loner who had no close friends or acquaintances, with his social circle limited primarily to immediate family members. Using encrypted applications, Crooks made 25 firearm-related purchases and 6 chemical precursors used to make explosive devices, FBI officials told reporters. Crooks' longtime interest in science and doing science experiments did not rouse any suspicion by his parents, whom the FBI said have been cooperative with the investigation. So he did use encrypted apps to make 25 firearm-related purchases and 6 chemical precursors used to make explosive devices. Yeah, Gordon Gott says state police spoke at hearing. That I think was the local law enforcement officer I was mentioning before who had spoken at a hearing. I don't remember exactly what he said. The congressional hearings, you can go back and find them and watch them if you'd like. Yes, the press conference is over, but if you want, you can rewind this broadcast, and you can rewatch it, the press conference. Joe Bishop says the Blade game. Hang on one moment here. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Derek Ellis messaged it. Derek says, I have sat in multiple unified command posts, and essentially they should all have radios in a circle in the same physical room that have different agencies' frequencies so they can physically talk to each other. Sounds like a breakdown there. He dodged that question, which is odd. Yeah, how local law enforcement could say 30 seconds before that the shooting that he had a gun and it not get to the Secret Service obviously seems like something that should not happen. Jeremiah thinks the cover-up continues. That's what Jeremiah thinks. Thanks to our viewer Jeremiah for writing in. Gary BB says they've admitted communications issues. Mark C., our viewer, writes it in. Mark says, what did we learn today that could not have been shared within 48 hours of the shooting? We still don't have a good reason why the press conference happened over 2 weeks after the shooting. You know, that could have been asked today, although the thing is that he wasn't the director. So, you know, certainly, when the previous director, who has now resigned, appeared in a congressional hearing that we broadcast, if I remember right, something that some members of Congress talked about is the lack of communication coming from the Secret Service. But you know, so I mean, to me, obviously, as I said, it seems really strange that I was critical the night of the shooting when there was a press briefing and the FBI was there and I believe local law enforcement was there and the Secret Service wasn't there. And the FBI said the night of the shooting something like, well, the Secret Service said they couldn't be here or something. They didn't even have an excuse for it, really. It just seemed crazy. It just seemed crazy. So I don't know why they did it this way. It just seems ridiculous, frankly, that they wouldn't at least have a person. You can have someone go out there and give a press conference and say, look, I'm really sorry. We can't speak on details of the investigation, but we wanted to come out here and at least take your questions. But why they couldn't do that, I have no idea. It just seems ridiculous, and it seems like it's bad PR for them. So, this was the first time today that they had a press conference. Avion says, so far, the Secret Service leadership has displayed obstruction, defensiveness, anger, and unconscionable excuses. And look, I did think certainly today was a very different vibe than when the Secret Service director gave her, that resigned, when she gave her hearing. The vibe is certainly different. He stood there, he took questions, he offered some information. Certainly, I know a lot of you would like to have more information, but it does seem like the vibe is significantly different. Hey, Gordon Gott, thank you. Gordon Gott says you would think if someone is on a roof, you would assume they have a weapon. Gordon, I appreciate your support. Also, Gordon makes an interesting point, and I think something Gordon is saying is something like, why are they so fixated on the Secret Service on like, well, we didn't know he had a weapon. We didn't get the message he had a weapon. Like, I guess, because like what Gordon's saying is at a certain point, just the fact that somebody is on a roof should in itself be really worrisome. Now, I don't remember, and again, I don't have all the transcripts, so I don't know to what the acting Secret Service director, has he spoken about when they knew somebody was on the roof without a gun? I just don't know. So, but, it's not to just say like, well, we didn't know he had a gun until the gunshots happened. It's like, it's not just having a gun. I do agree with Gordon that there's other situations besides somebody having a gun, like somebody being on a roof, where you might just say, well, we can't have this rally go on while somebody's on that roof who we don't know. So, I think it's a fair point by Gordon. But I don't even know at the time I don't remember if they even knew that. They might have just not even knew that somebody was on the roof at that moment. All right. K-Ville Lynn says, will we get the shooter's autopsy? I don't know. I would think maybe that's going to be something that the FBI comes out with in their report. Maybe. But I do not know if we will get the shooter's autopsy. He was shot by the Secret Service, though. DuckDuckGoFast said not having cell service for the Secret Service is a horrible excuse. They should be their own frequency. So I think what DuckDuckGoFast was referring to is I had shown you this story earlier, this Reuters story earlier, where in that story, hold on, I'll show you. If I can pull it up here. Hang on, I got to just pull it up for you. It was a story mentioning the counter-drone capability not working. Now, let me just pull this up here. Let me pull it up for you. if I can find it. I don't even know if I can find it here. Yes, so this is a story from a few days ago. U.S. Secret Service chief blames Trump security lap on local police. Today he specifically said, by the way, that that local police should not be blamed and that this was a Secret Service failure. But in the story it says, down at the bottom here, crooks flew a drone near the rally site ahead of the shooting, a flight that Secret Service officials failed to notice because a system for detecting drones was not working properly due to problems with the local cellular network. And what our viewer was saying is, well, shouldn't they not have to rely on the local cellular network to have this system for detecting drones working? Okay. So guys, I think what we're going to do is, I think we are going to wrap up this live stream. But I will, if you missed the press conference, you can go back and watch it. No huge new information released, I would say, but it's an interesting watch if you haven't watched it. But you can go rewatch it or watch it for the first time if you want to rewind. Again, the acting director said it was a Secret Service failure. He said they're looking into a lot of things. He said that local law enforcement should not be blamed and some other stuff. But we talked about it. Thanks. Kerry Poteet says, at the least, the Secret Service dropped the ball, and that is something that the acting director said. Thank you, Kerry, for your support. I really appreciate you guys joining for this live stream. We very well might have some coverage later today of the Iran situation and anything else that's going on. Of course, if there's big news, we'll have coverage of it. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. I really appreciate you guys being here and joining me for this press conference. And thank you so much for the comments and the questions and letting me read those. And obviously, if there's any big developments with this story, we'll also cover those as well. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. Make sure you turn on the notifications. We actually have a free notification system that you sign up for free, and then you get sent a notification every single time we go live right before. It works really well. The mods will post the notifications link, but make sure you sign up for those so you don't miss a stream. And also, you can find the notifications link in the Facebook and YouTube description for this broadcast. And a huge shout out to our moderators. They are the reason that we can even have chat rooms. They are fantastic. They are awesome. Huge thanks to our moderators for being here. We've been covering a lot of news lately, and they're always here, the moderators, so thank you. Over there on YouTube right now, we have Ruth Krafasi and BZ, and all of our moderators who've been over there on YouTube today. Thank you so much for being there. By the way, thanks to Metal Seer. Metal Seer says, even if they didn't know he had a gun, the snipers could have shot at the ridge 3 feet on each side of him to scare him off. So Metal Seer believes that action could have been taken. There was this whole thing where a local officer, right before the shooting, peered over, had someone lift him up and then pulled himself up and peered over and saw the guy on the roof. But then the shooter pointed the gun at the local officer, and then he fell down, I believe, and hurt himself. I believe that's been reported. So anyways, without getting into detail right now, I agree with Metal Seer that it would have been great to get that person off that roof and take action. But how was he allowed to even get up there? That's that's being investigated as well. I don't know. It seems like Metal Seer is talking about like the snipers thinking he was on the roof and not. Did the snipers see somebody on the roof but think they didn't have a gun? That I don't know. I don't know if that's been reported yet on whether the snipers thought they might have seen somebody but said like, well, is that somebody with a gun or not? So I don't know the details on that. It's a good question. But thank you, Metal Seer, for your support. Hey, let's see here. I want to say thanks to everybody who donated, because you're the ones who allow this channel to exist and allow me to purchase content like the stream we showed today, the Reuters stream. So I really appreciate your support for the channel. You were the ones who let the channel exist. So thank you very much. I think I thanked everybody. Let me make sure here. Hold on. Yes, I think I got everybody. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But huge thanks to you for your support of the channel. Let's see here. Excuse me. Thanks to our Discord mods too. We have a Discord chat room where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. A lot of our viewers like doing that. It's free. You can check that out. It's the same link as the notifications link. So check that out. And if anybody's interested in being a volunteer moderator, that would be fantastic. Sometimes there's a wait list for that, but if you want to be a moderator, ask our mods and they can give you more information on that. Quick reminder, if you do watch us on YouTube and you subscribe and you want to turn the YouTube notifications on, you need to do this thing on YouTube to turn the YouTube notifications on, which is click the notifications bell, click that bell, and then choose all notifications. So do that if you watch us on YouTube. Okay, so, and a quick reminder, I do have a personal channel. Man, it's been a while since I've been on the personal channel because it's been so busy with the news. But when it's a little slower with the news, I'll go back to doing some more stuff on my personal channel too. That is called Lookner on YouTube and Looknerd with a D on Twitch. And do some kind of just chill, non-news live streaming over there. We'll get back there eventually. Hey, big thanks to our Twitch subscribers like Jax Haku, The Cool Trash Cat, Annie Cush, Shaggy, Wall Street, Jack's Animals, Big Ball of Yarn. Thanks so much for subscribing on Twitch, Tegrity Farmer Bob. Big thanks for all your support. And all of our other subscribers over there as well. Thanks to our Twitch subscribers, a million as well. Thanks to our Facebook subscribers too, like Eve Richards and Lou Green and Billy Joe Drage, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Robert Rial II, Diane Allworth, Jane Summers, and all of our other awesome subscribers over there on Facebook. Thank you. And also our YouTube members like Eric Johnson and Nini and Donna Smith and Gordon Gott and Joe Hart and Ivan DeGreat and Mark Clayton and Cruella and Doug Cahill, Turned Off, and Tie Sticks and Driver and Xylee and Danny G and Snarf McGrew, and our other member is George Robardes, PZ Papazulu, Jen's Crunchy Vax, Pat Bev Street Guy, Jimmy ZNJ, Doug Cahill, John, Barry, JD, Gordon Gott, and Donald Mulligan and Brandy, Marissa Pugliese, Don Ladd Mulligan, excuse me, Liquid Electrum, Jan Porter, thanks for being members, and all of our, Cherry Cole and all of our other members over there on YouTube, Bone Mama, thank you, UV Lightning, Back Garden Astronomy, watching in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I'd love to visit Northern Ireland one day. Thanks for watching from there. Okay. Guys, we are going to wrap this up. Thanks Paula Thompson for watching, Audrey Burbank, Janice Keys Smith, Chris McVeigh, and all of our other viewers. Oh, and thanks John D. from YT. John D. from YT subscribed on Twitch. Thank you. Okay, so we may do, Los Gatos to Wilson, thanks for watching as well. All right, so maybe more streams coming up today, depending on how the news is. Let me go off the air and check the news. But thank you so much for joining our live coverage today of the Secret Service press conference. I will post updates on news when I'm not on the air on my X account, @Lookner on X. That's where I post about breaking news. And follow @AgendaFreeTV on X. I post programming updates there. I post when we're going live and other programming updates @AgendaFreeTV on X. That is it. Thanks also for Chris Bensett. Thanks for watching. And Hugh and Harry Sound. and others, Paula Faust and others. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.